him more than Bob with his Pachin shtick. But here's what I wanted to speak to you about. Several broadcasts ago, you mentioned that you were against Pataki because he had so little experience in government. And then in the next breath, you said that you would vote for Al Sharpton if he was running. How much experience has Al Sharpton had?
None, but he's really smart, and Pataki's a moron. You're right, I'm inconsistent. I guess that is an inconsistency, but the fact is Sharpton is sharp as a tack. The guy is brilliant, and Pataki is an idiot.
Well, he's brilliant, but his views are certainly not what's going to benefit New Yorkers.
Well, I tend to disagree with you. We have to end. I'm sorry. Stay tuned. I can't believe it. PEROT'S
station in New York, Long Island, and the USA.
WABC, New York.
It's 8 o'clock. James and Joel at 9.
Ross Perot, Listening to America.
Good evening, this is Ross. We're going to shake 'em up tonight. You've been shaking 'em up all week. As many of you know, I've been on television all week. They know you're coming, and now we're here. Welcome to our first nationwide program, Listening to America. We're going to cover the entire country on radio tonight and most of the world on shortwave. Starting tonight and every Sunday night after tonight, Washington is going to be listening with their hearing aid turned up full tilt to you, the owners of this great country. The purpose of this show is to give the people a voice that will be heard. It's your show. It belongs to you. We're going to talk about the subjects you want to discuss. I want you to tell me how to make this show better every week. Please write me. Just Ross Perot, Post Office Box 10. Just remember, it's a 10. Post Office Box 10, Dallas, Texas, 75221. If you can't remember the zip code, just shoot it on in. They'll get it to me. During the week, we'll be doing 2-minute commentaries every day, sort of like Paul Harvey. Tell me what you want to hear about in your letters. And tonight, call in at 800-44-PEROT. That's P-E-R-O-T. Tell Washington what you think. Be candid, be frank. Just remember, they all work for you. And now, we'll take a break. I can hardly wait to get back with you in a minute.
We'll be back after these words on Ross Perot, Listening to America.
This is Ross. I'm back. And this show is dedicated to the millions of good, decent, hard-working Americans who own this country, play by the rules, rear good children, do everything right, and are frustrated by the way our nation's business is conducted today. Our listeners are tired of being told what to think. We know what we think. We're tired of a government that comes at the people. We want a government that comes from the people. That's the way it was designed by the people who created the Constitution. Frankly, we're embarrassed and disgusted that only 14% of the people in our country, which we own, trust the government. We're even more disgusted that only 9% trust the House of Representatives, and we are dedicated to changing that as the owners of the country. More than anything else, we want to protect our freedom. We know that freedom is precious. Freedom is fragile. We know that our forefathers paid a tremendous price for it, and we jealously protect our freedom. Tonight, we're going to be talking first about Iraq and Haiti. We'll take Iraq first. I'll make a few comments, and then we'll go to the phones on Iraq. First thing to remember on Iraq is, how did we wind up with Saddam Hussein? We created him. He was our bad boy of choice. We funded him for years. We wanted him to take out Iran and teach them a lesson. Believe it or not, and these are facts, we gave him his nuclear, chemical, and bacteriological capability. We helped him arm his nation. Then he got out of control and took Kuwait. But just before he took Kuwait, he met with our ambassador, April Glaspie, and these are her words: "We will not become involved in your border dispute with Kuwait." Basically, she told him he could take a little bit, but he couldn't take the whole thing. Well, he took the whole thing, and the rest is history. Believe it or not, to show you how confused our policies are around this guy, after we had troops on the ground during the buildup, we delivered a supercomputer that is used to create nuclear weapons through Brazil. Fact. Now then, we had our objectives. Never forget our objectives in the first war. We were going to get rid of his nuclear, chemical, bacteriological. We were going to get rid of Saddam Hussein, and we were going to return Kuwait to the Emir. We accomplished one. We returned Kuwait to the Emir. We left Saddam in power. We left him with his nuclear, chemical, and biological capability. And now he's back. He's crazy, he's smart, and he's back. We have known he was coming back. The CIA knows the license plates on everything that moves over there. Don't you find it interesting that suddenly it becomes a front-page story 30 days before election, and we're sending in 4,000 Marines at warp speed? We know there's 65,000 of his special forces groups, Saddam Hussein's, on the border. You do not send in 4,000 against 65,000. One more time, our president is showing us that he does not understand warfare. There's no reason why he should. He ran to Europe during Vietnam. You've seen Somalia. You saw what happened there. That showed he didn't understand it. And we have to be very careful here on our dealings with Iraq. Now, I'd like to just stop. Let's talk about Iraq a little bit and then go to Haiti. Let's go to Tony in Oxford, Indiana. Tony, how are you? Tony, how are you in Oxford, Indiana?
Just fine, Ross. How are you, sir?
I'm terrific. What's up?
Hey, congratulations on your new show. I hope the best for you.
Well, thank you.
I imagine I'm a little more nervous than you are right now. But getting to Iraq, you stated one of the objectives was to get rid of Saddam Hussein. As I remember, that was not one of our objectives, was to eliminate Saddam Hussein, say, completely take him out of power, be it through assassination or whatever. But what I'm confused about, and I fully expect the Democrats to start playing this out. Well, if George Bush would have done this right to begin with, we wouldn't have to do this. I expect that to be their next ploy. Now, I kept hearing that if we would have went in and taken Saddam Hussein out, and it wouldn't have been as easy as people think, I don't believe, that there may have been some repercussions from some of the other countries over there, that when you go in after their leaders, that gets a little touchy.
All right, let me ask you a question. How many American troops are you willing to have die in combat so that we don't do something a little touchy?
Not a single one.
I'm with you, buddy. Now, let me give you another one. Was there any question in your mind that we tried to take Gaddafi out in Libya?
No.
Have you heard Gaddafi do anything except sing in the choir since then?
Not a thing.
You got it. Now, these guys, you know, when you hit that buffalo with a 2x4, you get his attention, right?
Yeah, I think it'd be great. I think that's what we need to do is take the guy out. I'm not sure another nutcase wouldn't jump in and take his place, and we'd be back in the same boat again.
We have all these funny philosophies. We're willing to send thousands of our great young people to fight and die, but not just solve the problem. Do you realize who's getting hurt the most by Saddam Hussein? The people who live in Iraq. They live a miserable life, right?
Oh, yeah.
This guy's got control over it. The quicker he's gone, the better. And I've laughingly said in the past, just get the Israeli intelligence group to give you somebody who barely made it through intelligence training, and that guy in his sleep would get it done in 3 days.
I believe you completely. Could I...
Now, this ain't pretty, but war's not pretty.
No, I understand.
There's nothing pretty about war. The only thing uglier than war is politics.
Yeah. Speaking of politics, there's something else I could slide in here if I could.
Sure.
Dick Armey from Texas has proposed a flat tax of 17%. Are you familiar with it?
Yeah, it's an interesting subject. I got the switchboards loaded. I got to stay to one subject to a person, Tony. Bear with me. It's great to talk to you. And now we have to go to a break. We'll be right back.
Thanks, Ross.
We've got one really interesting problem in the White House, and that is a lot of those folks don't even have security clearances yet. It's such a sensitive subject, they won't tell you how many don't have security clearances. One of the reasons they can't get security clearances is because they've used drugs in the past. Another reason, some of them, I guess, have criminal records from what you hear. I will be asking the president direct questions on this program. Number one, how many of these folks still don't have security clearances after over 2 years? And number two, why? And number three, why do you keep them on the payroll if they can't get a security clearance? Second, we know that readiness in the military is down from where it was 2 years ago. We know from reading the paper that they're out of spare parts for airplanes, tanks, trucks, etc., and that they're low on fuel in terms of flying the minimum number of hours a month our pilots need to fly. Another lesson here for a man with no military experience and a group of lightweight military advisors. I said earlier today he'd better bring General Scowcroft back in, somebody that knows how to do this. I read recently in Time magazine, it was Newsweek magazine, that George Stephanopoulos, that eminent military expert, is one of his war planners. Not a good time. Now let's go back to another caller. We got Joseph in Perry, Florida. Joseph, how are you? Excuse me. Joseph in Perry, Florida, how are you?
I'm just fine, sir.
What's that?
One question I have is on Kuwait. Our military boys are being shipped over in Kuwait to protect the human rights of the people there, and I want to know why our country gives the lives of our American boys to protect foreign countries when they can't even protect the country here. What about the human rights of the people in Perry, Florida? Aren't we entitled to any human rights whatsoever? The Justice Department and the EPA has covered up the systematic poisoning of the people in this county for 40 years, and we can't get anybody to act on it, and I'm asking why.
Well, I guess it's time to send in the Marines. What do you think?
I think so, too.
Too bad they're halfway around the world. I'll tell you what to do. Tap them on the shoulder in November. Clear their heads in your congressional district. You'll get some action, Joseph.
Right. Well, Mr. Perot, I'd like to say I'm 100% behind you. Gaddafi could have been taken out long time ago. I'm a crippled old man dying with cancer. And I promise you, if they'll send me over there, I'll do the job for them.
You'd get it done, too, Joseph. I've got to move on. We've got a phone bank loaded with calls. I'm going to Shane in Bakersfield, California. How are you?
Yeah, this is Shane from Bakersfield. How you doing, Ross?
Great.
Yeah, for some crazy, paranoid, inspector, short-haired, big-eared billionaire from Texas, the press and the hacks from Washington sure are bringing up your name a lot lately. What is that?
Oh, they're just propping up the target again so they can shoot at it, probably, Shane. You know how it goes. Don't worry about that, though. I'm not in it. All I want to do is get these problems solved. I want to make sure that the 21st century is a great century for our children. That's what drives us all here.
You got them on the run, Ross.
Well, we threw one out this week on Larry King. We said, after 40 years with the Democrats controlling the House, and in the last 60 years, all but 12 years, they've controlled the Senate, and they have a 9% approval rating in the House, 14% approval rating in the Senate.
Yep.
And we're stuck with one or the other. Let's put the other side in charge and see if things get any better. And if they don't, I promise the American people we'd start a third party.
Yes.
I think that maybe clears their head.
96.
Huh? Well, we'll do what we have to do, but the best thing we could do is get these two parties to repent, be reborn, and serve the people of the United States. We get that done, then we've done our job, right?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, Shane, I got to move right along. I've got Alicia from Long Island, New York. How are you?
Hello, how are you? Congratulations on your new show.
Well, you're very kind. Thank you.
I would like to ask you a question. Actually, can I get two questions in if I'm careful?
Can you what?
Can I squeeze two questions in?
Sure.
Okay, I would like to ask you, first of all, do you feel responsible at all because we now have a president, President Clinton, who a lot of people think is not quite qualified to deal with the world politics, world affairs, basically because you got involved in the last elections? If you had not been in that...
No, look at the facts, get the polls. You'll find that during the campaign, Bush's greatest fear is that I would drop out. Clinton's greatest fear is that I wouldn't drop out. Clinton wanted a landslide. Bush knew he was going to lose, didn't want him to have a landslide. Do all the post-analysis, look at all the post-analysis by the pollsters, and they say all I did was keep Clinton from getting a landslide. Second question.
Really? Okay, well, may I just comment real quickly about that?
Sure.
Well, because I maybe I'm alone in this, but I really felt that a lot of the votes were...
Well, I'm just talking this is what all the people that do the professional analysis say,
okay, well,
and this is what the guys at top of Bush's campaign were saying during the campaign.
Really?
Did you have a second question?
Yes, okay. And during the campaign as well, this is a little more sensitive, and I hope you'll bear with me and allow me to ask.
Make it fast. I got hundreds of people on the line.
During the election, there was a gentleman we heard here in New York was being interviewed, and he had done a thing about something about your daughter before she was going with a young man who was a Jewish background, and you were very against that. And
that's not a word of that's true. You know, that's just all clutter in the campaign.
Well, okay, I just would...
no, if you look at my background, look at the great builder and my closest friend in life is Mort Meyerson, who is Jewish. I rest my case. Thank you very much,
Okay,
Elisa.
well,
Good to
thank you
talk
very
to
much.
you. And I've got to go on to call number 2, Scott in Grand Forks, North Dakota. How are you?
Great, Ross. I got a question for you. I saw you on Larry King Live last week, and you made it quite clear that you thought Americans should vote Democrats out of control in the U.S. Congress and Republicans in control. And if Republicans, after taking control, didn't shape things up, then you threatened to form a third party.
No, I said we would. I promised we would. And for whatever it's worth, there's a brand new poll by the Times Mirror in Los Angeles. Said 53% of the American people want a third party now. So our timing couldn't have been better. That, believe me, both parties know that. I didn't know it. Both parties know that. And they're probably going to start to tap dance and chew gum here and listen to the American people. I hope they will.
Well, it was a great thing for you to say. I couldn't agree to any more. But what surprised me, number one, was of course Larry was shocked because I think he didn't want to hear it being a left-wing liberal wacko. But number two, why do you think it didn't get more national media coverage that you said that?
Because there's a tight club up there. We'll talk about the club some night. And I've got to take a break right now, but it's great to talk to you.
Take care.
Yes, sir.
We'll be back after these words on Ross Perot, Listening to America.
This is Ross. We're back. We're talking about Iraq. Please call us at 1-800-44-PEROT, P-E-R-O-T. Then we're going on after a couple of more calls on Iraq to Haiti. So call in and get in line because the phones are ringing tonight. And believe me, the roof is shaking in Washington. Well, all of you good folks are out there talking about the things that matter to our country. Okay, now then, we're going to go to Adrian in Santa Barbara, California. Adrian, how are you?
I'm fine, Ross. And why don't we just send one big ICBM to Baghdad and blow them all to hell and get it over with? Then they'll stop this baloney in Korea and all the other crazy places. We're outnumbered on this planet 20-1.
Well, they've got to respect the United States. We had a lot of respect. We've lost a lot of respect in the last 2 years. As I talk to people all over the world, they just kind of wonder what's going on here. The thing we don't want to do, the worst situation you can have is an inexperienced, insecure person risking other people's lives. If there was ever a time when we needed a strong president who understood war, it's right now. Right now, we've got to really, really, really be careful not to see that our troops are not misused. Don't you agree?
I agree with you, Ross, but I've got to tell you this. Historically, if you don't use your best weapons, the other people think you don't have the resolve.
Don't have the resolve.
Oh.
No, you're right. You're right. An interesting idea, Adrian, and thank you for your call. Now we're going to move on to Omer in Allentown, Pennsylvania. How are you?
Fine, thank you, Ross. And yourself?
I'm fine. What's going on?
Not much. My name is Omar Lederer. I'm the 15th Congressional District Coordinator for United We Stand America, Pennsylvania.
Great.
It's a great pleasure to talk to you. I'm so excited.
Well, what's up?
As far as Iraq is concerned, during the campaign, you had mentioned that the ambassador to Iraq was privy to some information as far as paying off Saddam Hussein. I was wondering how that played today.
Well, he was our boy for years. That's just a fact. That's a recorded fact now. We paid him off. We paid Noriega off. Noriega got out of control. We had to take him out. It's not a pretty sight. We took Noriega out. Now then, they just elected a Noriega ally as president of Panama. You got to be careful where you send your men and women to fight and die. Can we agree on that?
That's true. I was a member of the Air Force.
Okay, you understand. You've got the message. We got to get the message to Washington. See, you've worn the uniform. Most of those guys up there skipped out. We got to make sure they don't do something stupid with our armed forces. I got to move on. We got a crowd tonight. Now I'm going to go to line one. Hustis in Cabin Creek. Whoa, we've lost him. Let's go to... we'll go to Paul in Staten Island. We're losing everybody. Let's go Paul in Staten Island.
Yes, hello, Mr. Perot.
How are you?
I'm just curious. I don't understand how this country is $1 trillion in debt, and we're going around the world spending all this money in Iraq and Haiti, Somalia. I mean, it doesn't make sense. I mean, what's going on?
Well, each one is different. Iraq, of course, I think is driven by oil. Certainly, Kuwait is not a democracy, so we're not trying to restore democracy in Kuwait, right?
Right, no.
I don't think we'll restore democracy in Haiti because we tried for 19 years with the Marines, and that didn't work from 1915 to 1934. But we have this funny thing that it seems that every now and then we like to have a little war, and when we do, historically, whoever the president is got a big bump in the polls. So far, it's not working, right?
Right, no.
Maybe they'll cut it out. Let's hope so.
Well, I could see that the oil is an interest in the United States, and I guess it's important. But
wait just a minute. Would you send your son to die with the price of oil?
No, I guess not. No, I wouldn't.
I rest my case.
Right.
I pay a lot more for oil rather than lose my son, right?
Exactly.
And there's another thing to remember. Oil is worth nothing until you sell it. If the devil controls the oil, he's broke till he sells it, right?
Right, exactly.
Okay, keep that in mind. Just good old barnyard thinking. Well, I got to move on. We got a crowd.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll take a break. We're going to take a break now. We'll be back in just a minute. This is Ross. We're back, and now we'll talk about Haiti for a few minutes. Haiti gained its freedom in 1804 when the slaves had to be free, fought Napoleon, and gained freedom for that country. Since that time, the nation has had a history of instability. The government changed 22 times from 1843 to 1945. It's the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere. Unemployment is 25 to 50%. Typical income in Haiti is $440 a year. Its products are agricultural. 80% of its population is illiterate. There's 7 million people in Haiti. Their armed forces are a maximum number of 7,000 people armed with primitive weapons. Keep in mind, folks, anytime 7 million people want freedom, they can take it from 7,000 people armed with World War II M1 rifles. Our president boasts that 24 nations are joining us in this noble venture, and more are coming. But he doesn't tell you that he's paying $7,900 a month of your taxpayer money for every single soldier from another nation. These are mercenaries. He didn't tell you that. I'm not happy about what they don't tell us. Next, they present Aristide as the second coming of George Washington. Let's look at the facts. He's a defrocked priest. He has accused the Pope of being a racist. He is guilty of torture and brutality. We have him on videotape boasting about loving the sweet aroma of a necklace party. That's when you take a helpless human being, douse him with gasoline, and burn him to death. Hardly a man you'd want to send your son and daughter to fight and die for. The CIA's analysis of Aristide is that he is an unstable personality, unfit to lead the country. Now, here is one that broke this week. The Drug Enforcement Administration, DEA, says that he was a major drug trafficker in Haiti. And guess what? Justice Department stopped the investigation. Then when they were pinned down, they said, no, we didn't stop it. DEA made that decision. Then they had their feet put to the fire and said, oh, well, we had a committee in Justice Department make that decision. Sounds like they're starting to smoke but not inhale over there in Justice. We all know that we've offered Cedras a big price to leave the country. The thing we don't know is what are we paying Cedras to leave the country? The general. We have another question to the White House tonight. How much of our taxpayer money, Mr. President, are you paying this general to leave Haiti? I want to know. I understand it is a giant number. We'd like to know because we're going to have to pay for it. What's our objective in Haiti? To the best of my knowledge, we don't have one. The president boasts that the UN has cleared this, but didn't feel obligated to go to Congress. He suddenly became strongly resolved to do this as the crime bill was passing, and the word on the street all over Washington is that he agreed to invade Haiti in exchange for a block of votes on the crime bill, which people all over the country call Hug the Thug bill. I have a second question, but this is my third question tonight for the White House. Mr. President, did you or did you not agree to invade Haiti for a block of votes on the crime bill? If you did, it's obscene. Finally, there's a memo from Caputo, Dante Caputo, who is the UN representative dealing with Haiti. He wrote it to the Secretary General and said the United States officials do not want a diplomatic solution. They want to go to war and show their president's strength and resolve before the election. Mr. President, is that true? If it is, tell that one to the American people. And it's hasta la vista. I hope it's not true. They have a lobbyist named Gregory Craig that's a classmate of Bill Clinton's in law school. the Mebs family, the richest family in Haiti. And he has gotten them in to see senior members of the National Security Council, senior members of Congress, and senior members of the State Department. This is not the way a nation makes a decision to go to war. There's a song from World War II that says it all, and I heard a voice within me whisper, this is worth fighting for. I'd like to ask all of our listeners tonight, do you hear that voice within you whisper, this is worth fighting for? And now we'll go to Paul in Cleveland. Paul, how are you?
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir. You're on the line. Tell us what you think about Haiti.
Well, that's what I called about. I got home from 2 o'clock in the morning one day from work, and I hear a congressman talking about this Caputo memo, which you just referred to.
Yes.
How's come I read a bunch of newspapers every day? How's come I didn't see nothing about it on the news or nothing about it in the newspapers? And my question is to you, I'm getting sick of all this liberal media bias. Why don't you buy NBC?
It's overpriced right now.
I think you can do it.
If it's a bargain, maybe we'll look at it someday. Right now, everybody's bidding it up. But
what are the details?
Basically, they all kind of hold hands and hum. Now, there's one we're coming to in a few minutes, and this goes down to the fact that buried in the World Trade Bill, GATT, Section 8, is a big section that has nothing to do with world trade at all, but gives a sweetheart deal worth several $1 billion to guess who? The Washington Post and the Cox newspaper chain on cellular phone frequencies. It stinks. And when we get into it, you're going to say, oh, now I see there's a club here. I've got to move. We've got so many callers. Call me at 1-800-44-PEROT, and now we'll go to Bill in Houston, Texas. How are you?
Yes, sir. Mr. Perot?
Yes, sir. Tell us about Haiti.
I want to thank you for what you're doing for America. Admiral Halsey is credited with the comment that there are no great men, there are only great challenges that ordinary men rise to meet. Thank you for rising to meet this challenge.
Right. You're kind, and I sure fit the ordinary description.
This morning when you were talking on Face the Nation, you were absolutely dead right. This whole thing with Haiti and Iraq is nothing but grandstanding by Bill Clinton. They had to know that the Iraqi troops were moving men and equipment for over a week, maybe even longer.
I would say if we didn't know that, we might as well shut down the CIA.
Well,
right?
I'm sure they did. I want you to consider...
I mean, we could hire a camel driver over there to tell us that.
I want you to consider one more thing, that both the next logical step, that both Haiti and Iraq incidents are both contrived. The Bill Clinton, Saddam Hussein, Assad of Syria, George Bush, Boris Yeltsin, all are members of the same group. They are all members of the Council on Foreign Relations or affiliated organizations, and they are all members of Freemasonry. They all take orders from the same group of people or from the same person.
Okay, thank you very much. I got a loaded line here. I got Todd in Brooklyn, New York.
Hello,
Todd, how are you?
Hi, Mr. Perot. How are you? Great to talk to you. My question is that in light of the world's instability, as shown by what's going on in both Haiti and Iraq, do you think it is realistic to trust the growing number of nations with nuclear weapons to refrain from attacking us in, say, the next 50 or 100 years, so much that Clinton was right to abandon the Strategic Defense Initiative Program, or Star Wars, as it's pejoratively referred to by Democrats?
Once you create the nuclear weapon, the cat's out of the bag. It's just a question. Sooner or later, it'll get in the hands of some crazy nut. It exists, right?
Right.
And right now, it wouldn't take too much imagination to buy one from Russia, I wouldn't think, would you?
Right, exactly.
People with money can pick one up cheap now. So it's a ticking bomb sitting out there. The technology on all of that is a little soft. Their cost overruns. They kind of lost everybody's trust and respect by the way they were running those programs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in a time when money's short. I can understand why everybody's a little bit leery about it. I have got to take a break. We'll be right back, and then we're going to switch over and talk about the World Trade Agreement and GATT. And that's not a gun, folks.
We'll be back after these words on Ross Perot, Listening to America.
We're back. Now we're going to be talking about the World Trade Organization and GATT. And call me at 1-800-44-PEROT, P-E-R-O-T, if you have any thoughts on GATT and the World Trade Organization. This is a World Trade Agreement involving 120 nations. It makes NAFTA look insignificant. It puts our middle-class workforce at risk. It puts our industrial base at risk. And never forget, if you can't manufacture in this country, you can't defend this great country. It puts our tax base at risk because we will be lowering the wages of our working force. And finally, it gives away the sovereignty of this great country, and that's not thinkable. The agreement's 22,000 pages long. It weighs over 350 pounds. Congress had planned to vote up or down with little or no debate last week. We shook the trees. On Larry King, I asked every American to watch that process on C-SPAN. There was a meltdown. They couldn't stand the thought of the American people watching that process just before you go to the polls. They intended to ram it through. And the thing that just sits there like a snake in a barrel is Section 8. This is a sweetheart piece of pork. And you should see him toe dance in Congress. Congressman Dingell from Michigan. I got him on tape. It's a study in arrogance. He was blamed for putting it in. And he sure doesn't want to get the blame hung on him, so he blames the White House. The White House won't say a word. The FCC assures everybody they had nothing to do with it. The lobbyist, a former Congressman Downey, is one of Al Gore's closest friends and was playing basketball with Al Gore when he tore his ligament. That's interesting, isn't it? Now, somebody in the White House put it in there. It is a multi-billion dollar sweetheart deal for the Cox newspapers, the Washington Post, and a company named Omnipoint. They sold them these cellular phone frequencies at far less than they're worth. We have publicly proposed that they auction them off and let the American people see what they're worth. We have publicly proposed that they take them out of GATT, and here's one of the most obscene parts of the whole thing. Buried in the provisions of GATT is that this cannot be tested in court or taken back to the FCC. Can you imagine something that can't be taken to court and tried in court? They must owe the Washington Post and the Cox newspapers a big one in the White House. It's got to be pulled out. Make sure your congressman insists that it is taken out when he gets back in. They're going to have a vote after the election now. That way they don't have to vote on something you don't want, come home and face you and have you throw them out. Make them pledge whether they're going to vote for it or not before you vote for them. Now then, let's go to the phones and talk about it. And right at this point, we are going to Jay in New York, New York. Jay, how are you? Hello, Jay? Yes, we can't seem to get Jay. Let's go to Adrian in New Jersey. How are you, Adrian?
Well, Ross, how are you?
Good.
Good. On this GATT agreement, what you're bringing up as far as the deal with the Washington Post, those are important things that the average person can't get through the media, and it's those kind of examples that if you could definitely highlight throughout the agreement, helps us all. Also, too, maybe a suggestion is as we get different congressmen's positions on them, is let us know what they are so we can call individually those congressmen and say why. It's been very helpful for me. I know I'm following up on it.
We'll do that. Thank you, Adrian. And now we'll go to Linda in Mystic, Connecticut on 2. Hi, Linda. How are you?
Hi, Ross. How are you?
Great.
I'm the state chairman here, and we wanted to thank you very, very much for taking your time to put...
Well, I've lost Linda. Now we'll go to Rick in Houston, Texas. How are you, Rick?
Just fine. On the communications information on GATT, I called Bill Archer's office, and he said their explanation was that some engineers had developed some satellite technology, and they donated it to the government, and the government decided to start charging for it, and that to be fair, they were just going to exclude them, and that corporations own corporations, and it just so happened to be part of the...
No, this is a sweetheart deal. He's got it wrong. And to say that this is pioneering technology, every phone company in the country will pay a fortune to get it. As a matter of fact, one phone company ran a full-page ad in the Washington Post saying, put it out to bid, we'll pay a whole lot more than this. See, this allows you to take your cellular phone and use it for faxes and a whole bunch of other things. You'll have a tremendous competitive edge over your competitors that have the old-fashioned frequencies. Well, this is something that is worth a fortune. Right now, you and I own it, Rick. Should we give it away or charge for it?
Charge for it.
You got it, buddy. Thank you very much. Now we're going to go to Al in Mesquite, Texas. Al, how are you tonight?
Hello, Ross.
Great.
I wanted to ask you something on this GATT vote that's coming up. If both the Republican and the Democratic candidates in our district both support GATT, what do you recommend that we do? Who should we vote for?
Well, you're stuck. And here's what you can do. Insist that they get the pork out of it. Say, take Section 8 out. Let's stop giving away the people's telephone frequencies. Let's charge for them and get the money in the bank. That way we don't have to pay as much taxes. Does that make sense?
Sure does.
And there's some other pork in there, too, so let's get that out. For example, they agreed to let the car manufacturers delay fully funding their pension funds. What does that have to do with world trade?
I don't know.
These guys should have fully funded pension funds, right?
That's right.
They don't. They ought to get them done, and they shouldn't have an excuse to do it and have it buried in gap. Makes no sense at all. Okay, now we'll go to Al in Mesquite. Al, how are you?
Okay, well, thanks, Ross.
Okay, now we'll go to Dave in Modesto, California. How are you, Dave? Dave in Modesto, California.
Hello?
Dave, how are you?
I'm fine, Ross. Yeah, first time I've had a chance to talk to you since I was on the stage with you at the Sacramento Petition Drive rally.
What's up?
Well, I'd like to know if you're going to have a chance to get together with the Ralph Nader and Pat Buchanan, Marcy Kaptur, and Fritz Hollings and put together some kind of forum that can be televised on C-SPAN to show up all that's wrong with the GATT WTO.
A lot of things will be happening. There will be a vote after the election. We'll have between now and December to get that done. We will get it done. It's a great idea. Right. And now we have to take a break. Thank you. Good to talk to you, Dave.
Thank you.
We'll be back after these words from your local stations.
We've talked about a lot of problems tonight. I like to end these programs on a positive note. I'd like to talk about something that happened just about a year ago tonight. You remember in Somalia when we had that unfortunate event occur? You saw American troops dragged through the streets. You saw one of our great helicopter pilots, Warrant Officer Durant, was shot down, was a prisoner. His uncle stepped forward. His name is Wayne Thompson. He was a Marine in Vietnam. He knew exactly what he was offering. He said, I will go and become a prisoner so that Warrant Officer Durant can be freed and get medical treatment. This goes right to the heart of what makes America great. Greater love hath no man than he lay down his life for a friend. His uncle offered to do that. His uncle shook the trees. I can't give you the details, but I will tell you this. This man who lives in New Hampshire is largely responsible for the safe return of Warrant Officer Michael Durant. I salute you, Wayne Thompson. I salute you for your courage. We're lucky to have people like you in this great country. And now we'll go to line 2 and talk to Marion in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. Margot's hometown. Marion, how are you?
Hi, I'm real fine. I talked to Margot during your campaign.
Terrific.
And I wanted to talk to you about the World Trade Organization Charter. I sent to Senator's office and got it. And the World Trade Organization Charter in Article 16, Paragraph 4 says, each member shall ensure the conformity of its laws, regulations, and procedures with these agreements.
There goes your sovereignty, right?
I can't understand why the congressman, if they've read it, cannot equate that with treason. I mean, that's contradicting their oath of office.
No, you're absolutely right. You've got it. They'll get it. We've got to make sure they get it.
I've sent them a letter to that effect, and I haven't heard back from very many of them. I've heard back from 3 of them who
keep
really
writing.
Talked around it.
Yeah, keep writing them. Great to talk to you. Give everybody my best in Greensburg.
Great to talk to you. I sure will. Bye-bye.
We're coming to the close of our show, and I would like to close on another very positive note. There's a song, 40-Hour Week, written by Alabama, that I think really identifies who all of our listeners are. Let me read some excerpts from it. There are people in this country who work hard every day. Not for fame and fortune do they strive, but the fruits of their labor are worth far more than their pay, and it's time a few of them were recognized. Hello, Detroit auto worker. Let me thank you for your time. Hello, Pittsburgh steel mill worker. Let me thank you for your time. This is for the one who swings the hammer, driving home the nail, for the one behind the counter, ringing up the sale, for the one who fights the fire and the one who brings the mail, for everyone who works behind the scenes. And here's my favorite verse. You can see them every morning in the factories and the fields, in the city streets and quiet country towns, working together like the spokes inside a wheel. You keep this country turning around. Hello, Kansas wheat field farmer. Let me thank you for your time. Hello, West Virginia coal miner. Let me thank you for your time. This is for the one who drives the big rig up and down the road, for the one out in the warehouse bringing in the load, for the waitress, the mechanic, the policeman on the patrol, for everyone who works behind the scenes. And here is the closing line. Hello, America. Let me thank you for your time. It is a privilege to be with you. God bless you. I'll see you next Sunday night, and we've got the place rocking. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Ross Perot, Listening to America. Our engineer tonight has been Larry Glazier. Producer, Anne-Marie Petito. Coordinating producer, Chris Bly. Production engineer, Marilyn Miller. And executive producer, Laurel Homer. If you would like to write to Ross, send your letters to Post Office Box 10, Dallas, Texas 75221. This has been a presentation by Tribune Radio Networks.
This is the most listened to talk radio station in New York, Long Island, and the USA.
WABC, New York.
It's 9 o'clock.
Greg in Omaha, Nebraska.
Hi, Ross.
Hi, Greg. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. Glad to talk to you.
Thank you.
My question to you was sort of to do with Iraq was the money we're spending and all these little places we're running around to. You know, sometimes I wonder if Saddam's game is just to make us spend money needlessly, if that makes any sense.
Well, we're sure spending a lot, but Saddam's game is to get that embargo lifted. He's got a lot of support from some European countries. He's jerked our chain. If I imagine in the next few months he'll get the embargo lifted. We will have spent several $1 billion moving our troops back and forth. He was never coming over the border. This was just a stunt. The CIA has known for a long time that he was planning to do this. We just got it as a joke just before the election, and as I said a little earlier, the French defense minister said this has nothing to do with anything except U.S. politics. So he's pretty well got it nailed. Now let's go to Faye in Alexandria, Virginia. How are you?
Yes, Mr. Perot. Nice to talk to you. I would like to take exception, though, with some remarks you have made about the Gulf War and is one American life worth oil and so on and so forth.
What is your exception?
My exception is that myself, an ordinary middle class, I'm a registered nurse, my family, I'm not a billionaire. So when it comes to paying for things like gasoline and all the other things that are petroleum based in this society, in our economy, even things that save people's lives, all the plastics in the emergency room, all those things that we count on, the price would go through the roof. And I really believe this is demagoguery on your part.
No, it's not from one country. One country, we're not buying any oil from the guy now, and the price is not through the roof. I rest my case. So your basic premise is wrong. He's on embargo. The fact that his oil is out of the picture hasn't had much impact on oil prices.
But you're saying, though, that when we went to war, because it was over the price of oil, and it was.
Yeah, but I would not risk a single American's life, and has nothing to do with my financial status. If I were dirt poor, I would not ask a single soul to die so I could have cheap gasoline.
But if
you and I just have a different point of view.
But if President Bush had not stopped Saddam Hussein,
he didn't stop anything.
Over the oil.
He left him in power. He left his nuclear, chemical, and bacteriological in power.
He kept him from taking over the Saudi Arabia and all the Middle Eastern oil fields. And with his army, which was the fourth largest in the world, he would have taken over the whole Middle East and the whole.
All right, now can we agree that we at least ought to take care of the people who fought in the Persian Gulf?
Of course we should. But
well, you know we're not, don't you? Do you know that we've got several thousand that were exposed to chemicals and bacteriological that are suffering terribly,
Mr. Perot,
and our government has done little or nothing for them?
Mr. Perot, my father fought in World War II. He was at the Battle of the Bulge. And if you had said to his mother when he was there, is one German life or is Hitler worth your son's life, she would have said no, of course.
Well, you and I just have an honest disagreement, but I always welcome a difference of opinion. And good to talk to you, Faye. Now we're going on to our next subject. Our next subject tonight is big government. The Clinton administration sincerely believes that government's role is to take care of all of us because we're not smart enough to take care of ourselves. On the other hand, the average hard-working American wants the least possible intrusion in our lives by the U.S. government. History teaches us again and again that big government doesn't work. Russia and China are the two most recent examples. Some say, well, Ross, let's give big government a chance. We've been giving it a chance for the last 34 years. For example, in 1960, our total federal budget was only $100 billion a year to run this great country. Today, it's 15 times that much. It's $1.5 trillion and growing. My question to all of you, are we 15 times better off? Here are the facts. The standard of living for 4 out of 5 working Americans has dropped during this period. A $1950 bill is only worth 18 cents today. The greatest country in the history of man is $4.6 trillion in debt. We go almost $1 billion deeper into debt every working day. And we have to pay almost $1 billion in interest payments every working day. Never forget, interest buys nothing for the American people. In addition, you and I have guaranteed just about everything that's moving. The total of these guarantees is $15 trillion. On page 25 of Clinton's 1995 budget, he forecasts that the next generation to be born will pay an 82% tax rate. We're spending our children's money, and that's wrong. As you think about big government, never forget, freedom is our most precious possession. We have been free for so long that we take it for granted. We assume that freedom is a birthright. But history teaches us that freedom is fragile and we must jealously guard it. Each time we pass a new law, we give up a piece of our freedom. History teaches us that we should pass laws as close to the problem as possible. And we should only pass federal laws as a last resort. And interestingly enough, that's what our Constitution says. History also teaches us that self-governing nations do not react to financial problems until a catastrophe occurs.